Hey, everybody, it is Monday. And if it's Monday, that means it's time for Mondays in the meditation room with Dr. K for Midlife Musings. Here on Mondays in the meditation room, this is where you find all things Black women empowerment and enlightenment for midlife and beyond. This is a sacred space for sacred sisterhood conversation and talk in a space where we are free, because for midlife, we are not giving in to the crisis. We are redefining what midlife is. It is not chaos and crisis, but it is an awakening. It is a rebirth. It is a reimagining. It is walking into this sacred season in a new way of thinking and being. So, 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to start off February, right, with my special guest. We had some issues and some stuff going on with me. And then on last week, we were on travel, but I jumped on for a few minutes to say, hey. So I hope you got that message. So here we are again on the third Monday in February, and we are doing it again. Of course, Mondays in the meditation room, but for the next 2 Mondays, and who knows, whenever else, we have a special guest. As you can see, we're on travel, and so we're excited to be together. And my special guest this week is the Reverend Dr. Harold B. Hayes Jr., and is my husband. So as we always talk about midlife life, right? How about it doesn't just affect women, it also affects men. So I thought, why not have a man's perspective on midlife and what it's like for them? Not that he's speaking for every man in midlife, but it'll give us a different perspective on it, right? And an opportunity for us to hear, because we have to manage this midlife together, especially those of you who are married. If you've been in marriage for a while and you then hit this midlife season, it brings a lot of stuff with it. But it can also be one of the best, most significant and meaningful times of your life if you are intentional about it. So we want to talk about it. So I just want to groove and say thank you to MB Music for our Mondays in the Meditation Room theme song. It's a vibe, it's a vibe, it's a vibe. So thank you guys for listening. So you need to know up front, let me tell you that it is a recording, and we wanted to make sure that we sat down and had the time to have this conversation, because I didn't want to skip another Monday in the meditation room, and I did not want to skip having this valuable conversation. Say hey to the people.
Hey to the people.
You knew he was going to do that, right? Hey to the people, power to the people. Whatsoever it is, we are here in the meditation room. We have a great time in the meditation room. We've had some wonderful and amazing guests on Mondays in the meditation room as we talk everything midlife and perimenopause and menopause and just life in general. So this is completely unscripted, because we were going to do it a little bit later and it would have given me some prep time, but we decided to just stop and go ahead and have an organic conversation about life in midlife. I've been reading some great stuff recently about midlife, and it is so good. And I cannot wait to share it with you. Can't wait to share it with you, because it just really intentionally helps us focus on who we are, who we want to be, and where we want to go in midlife. So let's start the conversation off by asking you, what's your general thoughts about being, first, your general thoughts about midlife itself and what it is and what it means to you?
First of all, thanks for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
I'm
I'm
I'm like
glad.
really honored to be here with you. I've had the opportunity to sneak on
And watch
and
it.
watch it, and most of the time I'm just full of joy and overjoyed and proud of you because
Oh.
you are um, living your passion project,
Oh, I like that.
and that way that is to really uplift all women, especially
Black
black
women.
women, um, in the middle of their pivot,
Mhm.
and helping them to understand what that all entails. And so I'm very, very, very uh, overjoyed, proud, blessed. I look at you sometimes and say, that's my wife.
Yeah.
so and so thank you for having me, and thank you for creating a platform for not only just women, but this special moment that I don't take lightly, to hear the voice of a man, because as loud and bold and outspoken, sometimes drowning the voice of our black women, we are as black men, we don't talk about this.
Yep. But how
And
about
there's a
this?
reason.
That really, as women, we're literally just starting to um, openly and freely talk about it, because for all the women that I spoke to leading up to this and any project we do about menopause or midlife, and in particular menopause, uh, no one had talked to them about it. I would say 9 out of 10 Black women said that nobody had a conversation with them about midlife or about menopause, this amazing rite of passage,
Yeah,
which is what it is.
that's amazing, because we men, we joke about it. It's it's always treated as a quick sidebar, comedic mention of it,
Mhm.
and we house it all in midlife crisis, and we use midlife crisis for men as an excuse to be very irresponsible in certain areas.
We shrink
Eh,
it down to running away with the secretary and buying a red
And
convertible.
there's a reason why he does that.
Mhm.
And y'all need to hear that. Y'all need to understand that. And it's not because it's the secretary. It's not because it's the
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 red
the
convertible.
red convertible. I have a black one, right? It's not because of any of that. It is really fear. It's
Wow.
fear. And nobody, and thank you for asking that question, it's fear. Nobody, our, I know my father, as much as we were close and talk while he was on this side,
Mhm.
never said, son, I needed to hear you are going to get older.
Mm. Wow.
I never heard that. I never heard, we prepare to conquer. I was conditioned, so I won't speak for all men, but I feel comfortable saying this. I was conditioned by the larger society, and also by a proud black man. I was raised by a proud black man to divide, conquer, achieve, accomplish, go for it, just do it, make it happen, Captain. I mean, all of that. And nobody said, but there's an expiration date on all that.
Wow.
That there is going to be a time where your testosterone between 30 and 40 will begin to decline at 1% a year. And it will be so subtle, you won't know it until you look up at 50 and your libido is low, uh, your sexual function is not what it used to be, your testosterone is slowly declining, and you will possibly experience weight gain in your midsection, and you will begin to not just have a decline in testosterone, but you will have an increase in estrogen. And nobody tells you that. Nobody tells you
That could
how
affect your muscle
it
mass.
affects your muscle mass, your bone, the strength of your bones. Uh, it causes mood swings, and it's called andropause.
Write
Nobody
that
said
word down.
andropause, and
We
no
always talk perimenopause, we always talk menopause, but guess what? There
andropause.
is such a thing as andropause,
It's
and it's a real thing.
it's the male menopause.
Yeah.
And so nobody tells you about that. Nobody tells you how important it is to maintain a healthy diet, maintain exercise, because this is going to happen. And it's happening, and we're not talking about it because it freaks us out. It scares us. And so we begin to grasp for moments of youthfulness.
Mm.
We grasp for it. We we try to fight the inevitable to of getting older and feeling it and noticing it, and so we make poor decisions about certain aspects of our lives, and we almost sacrifice family and relationships and spouses just to feel young again.
Wow. Y'all, I'm gonna put his cash app in the chat so y'all can cash app him for that knowledge
Yeah.
and that insight. Come on. Who have you heard talk about it that transparently,
Mhm.
right, and succinctly about what that is? So then if I'm over here doing the mood swings and
And
the you're over there doing the mood swings and
mhm,
I'm having hot flashes and you having night sweats, because we don't
mhm,
talk about that, right? I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my life and where I
mhm.
want to go next.
And I'm trying to figure out what's
And
going on with my life and what I want to do next, but I won't talk about it
yes,
because that makes me feel weak. And we are designed, my sisters, please hear this. Men are designed never to admit weakness.
wow. Train,
Train
condition,
condition. Because if you do, some other man can take advantage and take everything from you, including your wife.
and that's not true. But
But
it's
but
been
for us, it's
drilled in.
embedded. It's drilled in
Mhm. And how about women
at the
are
dawn of time.
are 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 also conditioned to think that that's what they need. That's that
Mm,
whole bad boy syndrome and all of that
mm,
kind of stuff that
wow.
gets in there because we've
Hmm.
been conditioned that that is the exciting and
Bad boys are more
fun.
fun.
Bad boys are more fun
Right,
and all
right,
of that
right,
kind of
right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: you what you do is create that with who you are with. So you're not trying to go create that and destroy your whole life because then there's a little hoochie and hustler in
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah. I think what happens for men in this stage, and I'm smack dab in the middle of it. I'm 59, and this is my year 60. And I'm gonna start going like this. Look,
60,
and
yes.
so and so we're not trained, we're not mentored,
Mm,
we're not given permission,
mm.
and what you have to do is just give yourself
Give
permission.
yourself
And I had to
permission.
give myself permission to enter in. Well, I had already entered in, to acknowledge that I entered in the grieving process
So good.
of the loss of what was, and at the same time learn how to celebrate what is coming.
Mm.
We
Woo!
it's really a serious damage that happens to us when we cannot grieve uh, the loss,
Mhm,
and we can't at the same time learn how to celebrate what is coming
mhm.
when we're grieving, when we're fighting to let go of what we're going to lose, and we're not celebrating, and we're grieving what's coming. So instead of learning how to grieve, when you're losing something and you've lost something, it is absolutely okay to grieve.
It's normal.
It's normal.
Your body and mind expects it.
But
It's set up for that. But when we don't,
when you're fighting to grieve that which you need to grieve, but you're grieving your future that you need to be celebrating.
Yes.
That's called conflict, inner conflict.
That's cognitive dissonance.
That's cognitive dissonance overload. Because at this point, cognitive dissonance is only supposed to happen just for a brief period of time, and then you readjust. And you're like, okay, cool, this is how it is. But when you have a prolonged period of grieving your future.
And here's the thing about grieving your future is we've also been conditioned to do that. So we're conditioned that if you're no longer young, you're no longer useful.
She swung for the fence. She knocked out the park. She got it. That's exactly. You're getting older. Age, why would you grieve that?
Right. That is not celebrated. Now, here's the other thing. That's a Western construct.
Absolutely.
Eastern and Middle Eastern and African
motherland,
we celebrate the elders. Our elders.
Revere them.
And that's what it was supposed to be.
They have a paramount place and space in our development of our community, maximizing its potential.
Yep. And this Westernized or Americanized view, even Europeanized view of aging is negative.
Very.
You're out to pasture. Your life is over.
Put them to the side. Give them something to eat and let them die quietly and not interrupt what's going on in our young lives, our young energetic lives.
Oh man, that's so good. Yeah. And so we spend millions, really billions of dollars trying to still look young, act young, be young.
And it can be very exhausting.
And it can, I'll say it again.
Very exhausting.
It can be very exhausting. Instead of embracing
the change,
flowing with your body,
the transformation,
feeding your body and mind. This technically is, right? We just read an article not too long ago that technically 60s and 70s is your highest
productive years.
And productive years.
Yeah, and I read 60 to 80.
Yep.
That blew me away. I've read like 50s are like the transitional years. 60, they're like, you better celebrate. When you hit 60, it's a party.
It's a party.
Baby, it's gonna be a party. Come on, y'all. This is our party year.
This is our party year.
And then they're saying this is our most productive time period in our lives. We're mature. We're settled. More confidence. The paraphernalia of life doesn't have its enticements on us that it used to have. You know what I mean? We're like, nope, I don't want to do that. Nope, that's not for me.
You talking about boundaries and made up mind.
That's not for me.
That is so true. So what do you think? I really want this first episode of us talking about is just kind of talking about it. Right. When we come back next week, the Lord, as my mother says, the Lord says the same.
She said, don't ever assume you're coming back next week. You better say as the Lord says the same.
Kind of talk about some tools, remedies, skills, some practical things we can do.
That's next week.
To head into where we are. But this is kind of talking about the reality of it, what it looks like, what it feels like. And for men, what do you think for single men and married men in midlife? What does that kind of look like for them? How does midlife andropause hit for them? Because a lot of us, we talk about, many of us are still in the sandwich generation. We may be dealing with elderly parents, still dealing with adult children, or what it looks like career-wise for men, because now you start to think about retirement. Ooh, and I can't wait to share with y'all is information that I read about retirement. I
Right.
mean, but they start thinking like that. Men
Mhm.
start thinking about retirement, and that we've heard that some men, when they do retire in this age range, get depressed.
Get depressed and they last maybe 3 to 5 years and they die. They worked hard for 30, 40 years and all they've identified with was their work. And they've taken pride in that and what they were able to provide for their families. And when that stops, they feel completely useless
Mm.
and they have nothing they can identify with outside of what they used to do. And they die. I think the thing that is most important, that's a powerful question. I think the best thing we can do, and anybody who's been around me knows, I promote this. Awareness is everything.
Mhm.
You just have to become aware.
Mhm.
Your awareness will not stop you from getting older,
Right.
but you're aware, but increase awareness that you're going to get older and how to embrace it is what's needed.
Mhm.
And so now I'm learning how to embrace it. Now I'm feeling after I was feeling it. I was having two different conflictual feelings within. I was getting older. I could see it physically. I could feel it. And I also was feeling an emerging of confidence,
Mhm.
like from an unending source.
Mhm.
And it for me, it was very, very clearly acknowledged on the day I eulogized my father.
Wow.
When I was stepping to the pulpit to eulogize him, um, it was like he jumped, his spirit jumped inside of me. I felt him on the left and right. I felt him in back of me, and I could hear him smiling,
Mm.
not feel him. I
Mhm.
could hear his smile, and all of the grieving, all of the activity, all of the stuff in preparation, uh, all of the stuff that preceded that, because we watched him just kind of decline over a year from a stroke, hemorrhagic stroke. And watching him go through that, I kept having guilty, selfish moments of, is that going to happen to me?
Mm.
And that was messing with me.
Mhm.
And then I was having moments like, wow, I had the greatest father in the whole wide world, you know. And then I was having moments like, he's a great man of faith. How could he go out like this?
Ah.
And then to learn that he wasn't taking his blood pressure medicine because he didn't like the way it made him feel.
Mhm.
And he didn't even tell us he had stopped taking it. He didn't tell us the doctor had put him back on it. That was the other piece. Didn't tell us, didn't tell his family.
Mhm.
He told us when he was off. He told us when God healed him.
Mhm.
He didn't tell us when he started not behaving himself. Because my father loved salt. He cannot, you dad, you cannot have salt. And so, but we weren't always around him. And so when he started having a larger salt intake, it made him get put back on high blood pressure medicine because he was the only one going to the doctor by himself because he could still drive. My dad was still active. My dad was still walking and all that. But he didn't like the way it made him feel. And then all of a sudden he has a hemorrhagic stroke. And I was the one who got the call to realize something was wrong with my dad. You know, he called me and started talking, and I was like, no, something's wrong, and something was wrong. So all of that was going on, but then the moment when I was approaching the pulpit, um, something happened, and it has stayed with me since then. And that is all I can sum it up. I can sum it up this way: that I now am experiencing with all of the other conflictual feelings a celebration of life,
Mhm.
but from a getting older perspective. not like oh my God, I didn't do this yet, I didn't do that yet, I gotta do this, but I was doing a lot of things to feel a certain way about myself, and did not know until I started doing inside work that I can feel a certain way about myself regardless of what I haven't accomplished yet.
Yes. Woo. What do see, we don't talk about that either as we get to midlife, because a lot of us deal with depression
Mhm.
and regrets,
Right. Oh,
anger
that's
and
yeah,
bitterness,
yeah.
because we start thinking about what we didn't do,
What we
what we
didn't
didn't
do, what we
accomplish,
haven't
what we
accomplished.
that is such a good thing. I think we probably should just do a course on this, multiple courses,
Mhm.
because you said so much in that, because we're also in the age where our parents are passing.
Mhm.
Of course, there are anomalies where our parents pass when we're much younger,
Right.
or even as children.
Right.
And so we've lived, some persons have lived most of their
With that
lives
experience.
without it. But the majority of persons in midlife, or at that age between 55 and 65, your parents are passing.
Right.
And so we don't talk about what psychological effect that has on you in midlife when your parents pass.
Yeah.
What that means, what it makes you feel like, what you think about. And I believe that there's so many persons in this season who've lost their parents, or lost them somewhere in the beginning or the end or now, have not really dealt with the impact on them psychologically.
Yeah. In that moment that I was referring to, I felt divinely he was passing the baton, saying it's on you now.
Wow.
And
Dealing with the pressure that is major
the
too.
pressure of that, and I, you know this, that it was after about almost a year after, that's when I went into grief counseling.
Did y'all hear that? Grief counseling.
Yeah, and I was in it for a whole year, and it for me, I didn't know I was experiencing. I call it a delayed reaction to my father's passing, but I had begun grieving on the day we found out he had a stroke, and it was uh, a pre-grieving process, if I can use that word, watching him decline, and as a man of God and a man of faith, and his son is a man of God and a man of faith, and I'm like, I can't. Why can't I lay my hands on him and he fully recover?
It's so much stuff that you putting out there that we might be on to the end of December, trying to process all of this and go through it, right?
Yeah. Why?
Because we're not taught. I can only speak for uh, a Black woman. He can only speak as a Black man. So we're not really taught to process. We're not really taught to stop and reflect. We're taught to keep it moving, keep
Just
pressing,
keep it
going,
moving, keep it going, and not to stop.
Not to stop. But midlife actually is a rite of passage. I'm excited about
I love it.
creating the opportunity for us to institute that rite of passage for young girls when they begin
ceremony,
their menses, or the
Wow,
onset of their
wow,
cycle,
wow.
through to the different rites of passage of life, which right, and it is a transition period, and it should cause us to stop and reflect on what that season of our life means, and how we want to show up in that season.
Right.
In the archetypes for women, is maid, mother, and it's usually crone. But I figured, since it's my thing, I don't want to use the word crone.
Thank you.
So I'm using maven, maid,
Wow.
mother, maven.
I like that
And
better.
those places, and they all look different, because
Yeah.
some women may choose not to do that traditional mothering phase, right? But that doesn't mean they're not giving birth to something.
Yeah.
So how we look at that,
You got me thinking. I wonder what the words I would
Equivalency.
use, the equivalency of the stages of a man's life, and you got me thinking. I'll come back to that. So, but yeah, so that to me, it's awareness. It's
What about this
awareness.
one?
It's awareness.
Man, child, man, master.
Yeah, that's something to think about.
I
That's
don't know. I
something.
have to work on that
You
M
now,
word.
now I will. Now we have a little departing of ways on this, but I'm going to throw in some kind of way. Man, king. She's like,
Man.
your man and king is a man. Why would you put that together? You got to be a man to understand, baby. When we hear, because when we say man king, men are like, ooh.
Well, yeah, all men don't have kingly tendencies.
And but that's the thing. Man King is a training, development, coaching
Mhm.
program that I have for men.
Mhm.
When I say Man King, that's when, and they hear it, that's when the program begins.
Mhm.
When they a lot of men are not trained to even think of themselves like that way.
As kingly
That's something
and
so
queenly.
queenly. Well, no, yeah, for the women,
No, well,
queenly,
I'm
yeah.
saying queenly.
Where
Yeah.
for king, they like that's something other. And when I can bring it right to where they live,
Mhm.
you know, a king just, a king exacts authority in a responsible way
And
and
confidence
confident
that comes with
with a
experience
knowing.
and a knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about during our 4-part masterclass for the Enlightened Woman book. The Enlightened Woman book, Reflections and Inspirations to Rediscover the Joy of Being You in Midlife and Beyond, available on Amazon.
Get
You
that
need to
book.
get it, right?
Woo!
But we talked about doing that 4-part masterclass for the book. It was phenomenal, by the way. Talking about, when we really first kind of start recognizing that we were in that season, and we were talking about the first time somebody called us ma'am. and and our good friend Susan was talking about how she had gone to pick up something someplace, and however, but the young woman, a Black young woman, was treating her with such respect and honor.
She was looking
And
around for her
calling,
mother or grandma, like, who y'all
right,
talking about?
and she said then when she realized, she was like, that is me.
Yeah.
I am in this season where I deserve that kind of respect.
Exactly.
And to how to embrace it. And it was just confirmation for my next book. I'm not going to reveal the title, but yeah, how to come into that place,
Yeah.
to redefine it, to talk about the self-awareness of the signs, the symptoms,
Yeah.
the whole nine yards, and how
how to soar
perspective.
from it, the signs, the symptoms,
Yes.
and how to soar as a result of it is just amazing. And I'm so appreciative that you, as a Black woman, have the sensitivity to create a platform for a male voice, a man's
Absolutely.
voice, because
We're in this together.
we're
We're
in
not
this
doing
thing
it in a
together,
vacuum.
and y'all, we're the same.
But we're creating
We're
a new
experiencing each other different, ourselves individually differently,
differently.
but we're going through the same season. That's what I'm trying to
Right.
say.
But here's the other thing. We are creating a new paradigm with this, because we're usually in silos going through it and not really having that vulnerable, transparent
Many times we're in
conversation about
silos
it.
going through it, and we divorce and we go our separate ways.
How you know that's what I was going to say next? Right? Because then you're looking at people that have been married for 30, 25, upwards of 25 years, 30 years, even 40 years. And then all of a sudden they get a divorce.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation. Oh, Lord, I can't believe I'm sharing this. I remember having a conversation with a group of men. It was a sincere, deep, respected conversation. And one particular brother's like, I'm not attracted or drawn to my wife anymore. When she was younger, she was fine. She was a brick house, 36, 24, 36, old with a winning hand. And he was like, and so, I'm having a problem with it. And like God always does, when you pray and say, God, make sure you show up.
Mm-hmm.
God showed up in me and said, she might not be attracted to you either. He said, what? I said, you've changed. physically. And our wives are conditioned to be quiet and just suffer silently with all of our physical changes. And they stick with us, whether it's celebrating us or tolerating us, they stick with us. And so and I told them the Bible says, cherish and love the wife of your youth, though she's no longer youthful, though she's no longer the way she was when you first met her. The beautiful thing is to grow in grace with somebody over a period of time and learn all over again to like and celebrate the changes. Because if she's changing, this is what I said, she's still alive.
Mm. That's good.
And you're changing. And you're still alive. That means you're still alive. So yeah. So and what we talked about, and this is the part I was like, do I share this? And God says, yes. I talked about. I said, it's not your wife is not the issue. He's like, what do you mean? She's not the same. I said, what's happening for you is her changes are reminding you that you're changing. But it's easier for you to talk about her changes than it is for you to face and deal with your changes.
And that's all, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that, because the other, here we go again with the conditioning. Men are conditioned that it's okay to discard that and try to get something younger, even though you are aging and getting older. They've been given permission
Right.
to discard, and even if they don't leave, to tip out because they want something different or better, or quote unquote better or younger. They've been conditioned. Man, this is so good. We're coming to the end of our time. It went by really quick.
It really did.
Thank you for joining me on Mondays in the meditation room with Dr. K for the next few Mondays. You hear what I said? Dr. K and Dr. H, right? H and K Global, to really talk about this, have the conversation. I invite you, if you have a man in your life, whether you're married, you're dating in this time, or if you're not and you want to marry and you're in midlife, I guarantee you're going through some of this, and to come through it and come into it with your eyes wide open and your heart wide open and self-assured and doing the inside work. So that you don't project whatever you're going through on the other person. And because we're not doing this in a silo or all by ourselves, we're doing this together. Redefining, though, midlife is not a crisis. It may feel like it because you hit a brick wall, because that's what I called it, right? But it's not. We're redefining it as an awakening, a becoming, a reimagining, a rebirthing, and a redesigning of your life that you get to do intentionally, right? By reflecting, remembering, reclaiming, and rejoicing.
Wow. Cool.
Cool. That's how we close the book.
I love it.
I love it. So thank y'all for joining us on tonight. It's afternoon here, and I think we're 2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours behind.
We're 2 hours behind you guys. So we thank you for joining us for Mondays in the meditation room with Dr. K for Midlife Musing, as we equip you and empower you and encourage you on this most sacred season of your life, that you will make this the best season of your life.
Wow.
Woo. Yay.
Yay.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Please make sure you put some responses in the chat, and we will see you again on next Monday, as the Lord says the same.
As the Lord says the same.
Love y'all. See ya. Okay. I'm being a producer, and it's taking me a long time to end the broadcast. Let's try